the garden that never grew. For years, the man's yard had been nothing but dirt. Hard, cracked, stubborn dirt. When he first moved there, he told himself he'd make something beautiful. Rows of flowers, maybe, or vegetable he could bring inside in woven baskets. He imagined color, violets and oranges, red tomatoes heavy with sunlight. He bought the seeds, hundreds of them, from a store that promised guaranteed to bloom. But the soil wasn't kind. Every attempt ended the same. Dry stalks, brittle stems, emptiness. So he stopped. The packets of seed stayed in the box, slowly fading under the dull light of his home. The seasons turned. Rain, frost, heat. But the yard stayed the same. Brown, silent. Years later, one early morning, the man sat by the window with a cup of lukewarm tea. He was older now. His hand shook slightly as he held the cup. Outside, the patch of dirt stretched out before him, untouched since the day he gave up. He didn't know what drew him to open the door that day. Maybe it was boredom. Maybe it was the soft wind, or the faint smell of rain that lingered in the air. But he stepped outside, barefoot, and walked across the dry yard. The ground was still cracked, but not as hard as he remembered. The air was cool, quiet. He knelt down, pressing his hand into the dirt, and felt something give. It wasn't dead, not really. Just waiting for someone to care again. He went back inside and found the old box. The packets were still there, though some were worn and curled. He smiled faintly at how absurd it was. A man trying to plant old, forgotten seeds. But what harm could it do? He dug a shallow groove with a rusted trowel and poured a handful of seeds into the earth. He didn't even remember what kind they were. Maybe wildflowers, maybe weeds. He didn't really care. He covered them, watered them with what little remained in his teacup, and went back inside. The next day, he did it again. Then again the day after that. Sometimes the rain helped him. Sometimes the wind worked against him, blowing the soil away. Some days he nearly forgot. But the small ritual, watering, checking, waiting, became part of his mornings. Weeks passed. The dirt stayed dirt. Then one morning, while the man was rinsing his cup, he noticed something different. A hint of green. A tiny sprout. Barely there, trembling in the breeze. He stared at it for a long time, unsure if his eyes were playing tricks on him. He knelt down again, fingers brushing against the fragile stem. It was real. He laughed, not loudly, not joyfully, but softly. A laugh that sounded like sigh breaking free. Over the next few days, more green began to appear. Small dots at first, then thin stems, then leaves. The yard that had once been barren began to shift in color, like it was remembering how to live. He tended to it every day. Some plants thrived, others didn't. He didn't care. It wasn't about that anymore. It was the routine, the motion of living, of giving care. Months later, the man sat again by the same window. Outside, the yard swayed with life, uneven, wild, but full. The flowers weren't perfect. The colors didn't match. But it didn't matter. He took a slow breath and whispered to no one in particular. Guess you just needed someone to wait long enough. The wind carried through the open window, brushing across his face. It smelled faintly of rain, and something new, something green.